Mr. State Secretary, Mr. Viktor Nektovic, Rector Popovic, distinguished guests and colleagues from the university and also from other research institutes here in Serbia. For me, it's a great pleasure to be here again, to have the opportunity of presenting the European Research Council and hoping, as Mrs. Popovic just said, that really Serbia will be making good progress in being successful at the European Research Council. So you will hear 3 different presentations on ERC with different purposes. Mine will be quite general and also a little bit about the future, how things should develop. My colleague Andrei from the Scientific Council will be more specific about ERC, and Elena Volpi, who is in charge of the widening participation working group in the Research Council, will give you some more practical detail on how to apply and so on. So bear with me in the sense what I'm going to say will be reasonably general statements on the ERC. So the first point that we should never forget is that to get the ERC going was not obvious. So most of you are scientists, and you know sometimes one has to be patient. That is, the solution doesn't come the next day. The first time I heard about ERC was 1995. I was at that time president of the European Mathematical Society. And at that time, it was really a dream that maybe the EU could be financing a program like the ERC. At that time, it was not so easy because actually research was not a shared responsibility of the European Union, and therefore the treaties didn't allow to support individual grants. So it took a long time, and as you know, ERC was born in 2007, to get over this difficulty, that is to change the treaty, and the Lisbon Treaty has been providing this, but also to get a framework, to get it work in the right way. So this is really something which was very important, is always very important to bear in mind, that is the scientific community collectively at European level managed to organize a sufficiently efficient lobby that ERC could exist. That was not completely obvious. And the main reason why it was needed, because definitely Europe was producing and continues to produce about 1/3 of the new knowledge worldwide. But if you looked at the highest cited papers, Europe was lagging behind the US very significantly. As you know, in the meantime, the world landscape has changed quite a bit in the sense that some countries are really moving forward very quickly. The most obvious one is China. I'm sure you're aware of that. Through major things, major investments, but also human capital. So I think it was very important that you stress the importance of human capital in this endeavor. So that was really one of the motivation. Can we really bridge this gap with the US or not, and how can we do it? And the choice was really to support really completely bottom-up projects and really to try to motivate scientists to be ambitious and to look for really high-risk, high-gain projects. So this was really the motivation for the creation of ERC, to have a program under the responsibility of the scientists, where scientists can come and propose their most ambitious ideas. So this was really the scheme. So now, how does this relate to something which for governments is, of course, very important, which is to keep the countries competitive? And from that point of view, maybe I spend 1 minute explaining that for a long time, there was really some kind of what we tend to call the linear model. That is, you find some new knowledge, then you look at the applications, then you transform it into innovation. In the last 20 to 30 years, we saw quite major changes in this scheme. So in a sense, much more often happen what one can call short circuits. That is, situations where something which was really found at the quite fundamental level could very quickly give rise to a new economic activity in a way where it was very difficult to separate the application part and the fundamental part, which meant that the organization where you have this linear organization of things fundamentals, applications, innovation had to be really transformed quite a bit. And this was recognized in several documents. The one I'm showing here is the one on the OECD, where definitely you have to look at the way innovation develops in a quite different way. And this is also one good reason to organize the way research is supported in a different way. In the context of ERC, the way we have addressed that is quite simple. We don't want to discriminate between fundamental and basic research or even technological research. We just want to call it frontier research. That is, we definitely want to look at what are the new discoveries in any area which could actually make really a big difference. And so this is what we call frontier research, and frontier says really what it says, that we are not looking for just incremental things. We really want that people come up with quite really ambitious ideas so that actually we can try and finance them. And we feel, and I think now we have a very good example after 12 years of existence of ERC, that this indeed has been delivering. So a good example of this, if you look at, we are doing, the Scientific Council decided to have a study, what we call an ex post evaluation. That is when the project is finished, we wait 2 years and we try to see what has been the impact. First, the scientific impact, but also more generally the economic impact. And one thing we found is that 20% of these projects really corresponded to breakthroughs. 50 to 60% correspond to major scientific advance. And if you look at the ones having the most impact, interdisciplinary projects are the ones which have had the most important impact. So this was really a good illustration of this new narrative concerning how research, innovation can be linked and how is the best way to support them. So this was, yes, so. So this was the way the ERC was set up. One very important element about ERC is the fact, as I said, it's strictly bottom-up. That is, we are not prioritizing any area. We cover all disciplines, including social science, humanities. And of course, a very major element for the European Union and the European Commission was the fact that the responsibility, very high responsibility was given to its Scientific Council. Scientific Council has the full responsibility of deciding how to spend the money and at the same time how to organize the evaluation. Of course, we can do that only because we are supported by an agency which really provides the support. And I think working with the agency day after day, I can really measure its efficiency. And from that point of view, the motivation of the people who created ERC has been kept. And therefore, we are very pleased that in terms of management, the ERC is also a very good example. So as I said, under the responsibility of the European Commission, ERC has been developing, and with, as I said, the Scientific Council being given very specific responsibilities and the support of the agency which manages the ERC. Scientific Council is composed of 22 scientists, and it's regularly renovated in the sense that people have a mandate of a certain time, then some new people are coming. We're in a period where the Scientific Council will be changing quite a bit. For myself, I'm finishing my term at the end of this year after 6 years of service. And then some other successor has already been chosen and will take over on the 1st of January. And also in the same way, we have at the 1st of January next year, we'll have 8 members who are new members of the Scientific Council. Many fields are represented, people coming from many different backgrounds. And I'm sure André maybe will speak about that. It means a lot of work. So I'm very grateful for my colleagues from the Scientific Council for their dedication. So the schemes which have been produced by the Scientific Council are very simple. And so I show you the very basic schemes, which are called starting grants, consolidated grants, advanced grants. I don't want to give you more detail because André will speak about it. But the point I want to make here, there are 2 points I want to make here. The first one is the fact that by why did we divide this call into 3 different calls? Mainly because we wanted to have an evaluation where really the panels who are evaluating the projects really compare projects which are really at the same level of development. And so therefore, we were starting grants are people who are 2 to 7 years after their PhD, consolidator grants 7 to 12 years. So in a sense, you compare people who are more or less comparable. Of course, if you do want to compare people 2 years of a PhD and 20 years of the PhD, it's very, very difficult. The other point I want to say is that it is a constant decision of the Scientific Council to more or less to allocate the same amounts of money for these 3 calls, which means that 2/3 of our money is going to people below 40 years of age, which of course is very important and a very significant contribution to the development of the next generation. My second point about this is the fact that we are extremely committed to making sure that enough women are applying and successfully applying to ERC. So one feature we have done for the 2 calls for which there is an upper limit, which is, as I said, 7 years after PhD or 12 years after PhD. For women having children, automatically we add 18 months per child to the upper limit. And this is really working in the sense that if you check the success rate of women who are beyond the upper limit, actually it's the same as the people who are just in the normal limit. So these are features which were decided by the Scientific Council which are working. We have also, in the spirit of what I mentioned about this connection with innovation, the Scientific Council also decided to create a small program called Proof of Concept, which really accompany ERC grant holders in case they want to get closer to markets or closer to societal needs. And so this is really an extra amount of money that we give them to really make them do the first steps in this direction. We hope that with the installation in the next framework program of the European Innovation Council, we will develop a very good partnership with the EIC, the European Innovation Council, so that they can help them to get the next steps, which we know are more expensive than the one we have. And last but not least, we reintroduced last year a program called Synergy, with the idea that we really want to have a very good space where pluridisciplinary research can be developed. So what is the feature of Synergy is the fact that it's not one researcher who is fully responsible for the project, but 2, 3, or 4 researchers, so that you can combine competencies coming from many different fields. There is no obligation. You can also come up with a very ambitious project for Synergy without having this characteristic. But we felt that this was a very good opportunity for people who really want to develop activities of this sort. So this is the way we have organized the evaluation. As you, looking at the title very quickly, you can see that most of them show that our panels are multidisciplinary already, but we know that pluridisciplinarity goes beyond what we have organized with this distribution. So the vision. The vision for the future is based on the comment by our present commissioner, Carlos Moedas, who has been a great supporter of ERC from his first day in office. Which is that ERC has been successful, has provided very good results, very good support to scientists. And therefore, the ambition is that for the next framework program, which will start in 2021, which will be called Horizon Europe, for which the global architecture is more or less fixed. Still, there are some negotiations with the new parliament and, of course, with the new commission, who will be nominated very soon. So we hope that indeed it will continue to develop well. One of the impacts that ERC had is beyond providing resources to researchers, has been also to really suggest or encourage or facilitate for a number of countries to adopt some structural reforms. I was just yesterday in Poland, and Poland has created a funding agency called NCN, which definitely was completely modeled after the ERC. So yesterday morning I had a good discussion with the president and the director of NCN on how we can actually learn from each other, because also they are teaching us some things because of the special situation of the country. As I said, we are moving towards the next framework program, and the Scientific Council had the so-called Padua Declaration, because that's the city in which we voted for this declaration, with 3 key words. One is continuity, which means that we feel the present structure of ERC is functional and can deliver what it was meant for. The second one is in agility, because we spotted in some areas in which we are not efficient enough, where we should have more flexibility, more agility. And last but not least is also scale up, which says clearly what it says, namely that we feel that we can use in a good way more money. And so we have very good arguments for this. One of the best arguments we have is the fact that every year we have about 500 absolutely excellent projects that we cannot fund, which of course is a very difficult decision by panels to decide to draw the threshold between the ones who get supported and the ones who don't get supported. And one of my permanent plea when I meet ministers from all the countries who participate in the framework program is to tell them maybe it would be a good idea to support what we call the unfunded A's, that is people who are just beyond the threshold and could be supported, because definitely the evaluation has been extremely good. So for the next framework program, the final distribution of money is not yet fixed, but more or less the three pillars will be a pillar very similar to the present one with Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, ERC and large infrastructures, called Pillar 1, probably with the name of Excellent Science. The second pillar has been quite transformed. It represents now more or less 50% of the budget, which will be dealing with global challenges and will cover actually a number of issues, a lot on digitalizations, a new type of program on missions, and last but not least, of course, the last pillar, which will be focused on innovation with the European Institute of Technology, EIT, but also a new creation, which is really the baby of Commissioner Moedas, which is the European Innovation Council. So in a sense, there will be a new scenario which will be put. As I told you, there's already a partial agreement. I think the overall structure is more or less clear. What is still missing, a very important element, is the budget. The Commission came up with a proposal for the budget, which should be, the proposal of the Commission was around 100 billion euro for 7 years. The previous one was 75. But you have to remember that this budget was prepared for 27 countries when the one with 75 was 28 countries. And the missing one, maybe not missing in the end, we will know soon, is the UK, for which, of course, the contribution to the budget is very significant. It's 15%. So if you compare 27 countries, 100 billion, and 28 countries, 75 billion, it's a very significant increase. In the case of ERC, it would presently, if the proposal by the Commission is taken up, which is not sure, the increase would be by 60% of our budget, which is less than what we hoped. We are dreaming of doubling the budget, but it's difficult to complain about the 60% increase. I'm sure some people will agree with that, the rector in particular. Anyway, so that's where we are. And so the framework, and that's my last slide, is definitely that things are moving on. The main discussion, which will start very soon, is the discussion about the budget. Of course, for this you need a new commission being discussed. We will know very soon who will be the next commissioner. And of course, all these discussions involve, as usual for the EU, the three partners, the Commission who made a proposal, then of course the Parliament, there is a new Parliament, and of course the Council, that is the countries, and usually for the budget, the difficult part is the Council. Because the Parliament the previous Parliament voted a budget for the framework program of 120 billion, that is even beyond what the Commission has proposed. Thank you very much.